Hey everyone, I'm John Lynn, the founder and chief editor at Healthcare IT Today, and we're excited to bring you another in our series of interviews with top leaders in health IT. And our guest today is Dr. Matt Keefer. He's Chief Medical Informatics Officer at CHLA, and Dr. Ed Lee, Chief Medical Officer at Nabla. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us, John.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, so we're going to be diving into ambient clinical voice and your usage of that. But before we go there, Matt, why don't you start off? Tell us a little bit about yourself and CHLA.
Sure. I'm a general pediatrician by training. I've been at CHLA for this will be my 25th year. And I've been involved in informatics since I was a resident. And so I've been the CMIO for many years, and I'm really excited about this ability to give a new tool to docs to take some of the work out of their everyday life, their everyday experience.
Yeah, aren't we all? Ed, tell us about yourself and Nabla.
Yeah, hey, no, thanks, John. Ed Lee, I'm an internal medicine physician. I practice in primary care. I'm the chief medical officer for Nabla here, and have been with the team for the past couple of months or so. And prior to that, I was at Kaiser Permanente for about 20 years, very involved with information technology and innovation.
Awesome. So Ed, Nabla recently announced that your ambient AI assistant is, called Nabla Copilot. It's going to be rolled out to 600 specialists at CHLA. Exciting to see a large rollout like that. Tell us more about that partnership.
Yeah, no, John, we're thrilled to be working with CHLA. They're really the largest pediatric multi-specialty medical group in the United States, and their physicians are known for being world-leading experts in pediatric specialties. And they've been pioneers in pediatric medicine since the very start. And we're extremely honored that they chose Nabla to remedy one of the greatest challenges in the medical profession over the past decade or so, which is the clinician burnout issue. Really bringing a tool to their bedside, allowing them to focus on what really matters, which is patient care.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ed, we did a demo at HIMSS. People should go check out of course they can also go to nabla.com and download it and try it. But Matt, it's great to hear you've been, rolling this out in practice. You did a month-long pilot with about 30, I think, pediatric specialists. Talk to me about that process and what was that was like for the team and how you worked with Nabla to really test it out with your clinicians.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. So yeah, we really were pretty thoughtful about the group that we wanted to try it with. So we wanted to make sure that we captured both multiple different specialties, so
Hmm.
both kind of the medical side, surgical side, people at different points in their careers, people who were tech savvy, people who were less so, and so we really wanted to be kind of balanced in terms of deciding how how people would experience it, so that we could then better offer it to the larger group. And as a whole, it really went incredibly well. The Nabla team was fantastic. We had some early requirements for security that our team put in place, and Nabla was able to meet that, working hard over the holidays, and made everything as smooth as possible. And then they came out and were an incredible physical presence to help us get going. And it made it very easy for us to get people signed up using Nabla and frankly enjoying the experience.
Interesting. So I guess it was a good experience if you're going from 30 to 600. Is that the results?
Yeah.
Tell us what was the reaction?
It was, and so I mean, we certainly had, and part of what we kind of developed, we had some questionnaires that we had beforehand, and we wanted to make sure that people were able to assess the how the tool worked for different areas, and so we certainly found that outpatient was kind of the sweet spot for us for the first portion, and then we again used kind of the ongoing assessments to have people give feedback, and one of the things that was incredibly important was the rapid response Nabla had to okay, this note didn't work out quite the way we thought it would, and here's why. And people literally said, oh gosh, the next day when I did this, it changed. And so I think that was one of the things that was exciting for folks to be involved with something that was evolving with them. And I think as opposed to everyone kind of feeling oftentimes that they're in a in an EMR or a system that says, "Oh yeah, that's a great idea. We'll get to it." And this was one where people really felt like they got to give feedback and really rapidly see the change.
That is interesting. Happens a lot in the HR. Yeah, we'll get to that in 6 months, and then 5 years later, it's still not done. Is that sometimes depends on the problem, I guess. But
There are plenty of things that we say, "Yeah, that does make a lot of sense," and we just can't do a lot about it. This was fortunately not one of those cases.
Interesting, Ed. What would you add to that as far as how you approach working with health systems such as CHLA, and is that the process you see with most often is pilot, which then leads to larger, and, are you very hands-on with most of your customers?
That's exactly right, John. And we feel it's critical for our health systems to know and understand our product. And that's why we encourage our partners to pilot the solution before signing on long term. And that's what we did with CHLA, as well as with many of our other large health systems who've signed on to use Nabla. We're confident that after you try it, you'll love it, and you'll never want to go back to the pre-Nabla days. And similar to what Matt just said, we work with clinicians on the ground so that we can understand their challenges and tailor the product to meet their unique needs of their organization, which is, I think, really a significant differentiator of how we work at Nabla compared to some other products that are out there. We really want to understand what's going on in the field so that we provide the best experience for our partners out there.
Interesting. Matt, is there some specific examples of this where you made specific requests and they adapted to the
Oh
team's
yeah.
workflow? I mean, it's interesting to hear Ed say, yeah, like the practitioner's workflow matters. It's not just ours that we're forcing upon them. Do you have any specific examples of requests you made and what they did?
Yeah, so one particular example is in general pediatrics, we have, well child visits that are kind of structured, and we ask a lot of questions that in a normal routine visit, if you were seeing a subspecialist, might be considered kind of throwaway information about, oh, how's your appetite or how'd you sleep, when it may not be as relevant to, going to see the orthopedist for your broken arm. And so we obviously need to keep that information. And so they worked closely with one of our general pediatricians to develop a template that kind of kept all that in there and then to format it in a way that made sense. And so we're still kind of making a few minor changes to it, but that was a big change that, again, just from seeing the first couple of days to say, oh, okay, here's how you can put this in and here's how you can request the note to be generated, where people saw a big change. And
Yeah.
so that was a perfect example of, oh yeah, that's a need we should meet.
It's interesting how pediatrics does have some very specific needs that don't make sense
Yeah.
in peds but do everywhere else, right? Not
Yes.
many pap smears in peds, right?
Not a lot. Yes, there's certainly a lot of things that we talk about with adults that we don't have to deal with, but then there's a lot of things that the kids, yeah, exactly. Like, how often are we asking a lot of adults, like, how's school going? What,
Yeah, what's
so
your growth chart look like? Well,
exactly,
I guess
exactly,
weight growth chart maybe, but
exactly.
doesn't quite work. That's really interesting. As you were considering ambient clinical voice, you considered a lot of solutions. I think you piloted some, as I understand it. Why did you end up choosing to roll out Nabla and to really, go with it? And kind of what set Nabla apart from the other solutions that you looked at?
Well, I really think it was the partnership. I think we felt from the start that they were interested in working with us to develop the best system for our clinicians and not just to say, here's a new toy, please use it, but here's how much it costs, and if you want to change it, that's not really going to happen. And so we really felt like we had someone who was interested in how this would help us. And
Interesting.
so again, throughout the process, they've come out. We have ready contact. I mean, people get feedback on the notes that they give, and they say, "Oh, this didn't come out the way I expected." And literally within several hours, so often they'll have a response. Oh, here's what the transcript showed. Is that what you meant? Sometimes I confess I have to chuckle when I say, "Oh, I guess I did say it that way." And so I mean, so that it's and so that partnership was really what drove us, because I think that there are, as you said, there's lots of competition in the space. The other thing was just how easy it was to stand up quickly, and I think that was a huge thing. And I think as that is shared, the ability to stand up a pilot and get people to try it was a wonderful hook.
Yeah. Ed, I mean, I find it fascinating that, you left Kaiser Permanente Foundation to hop in with Nabla. Talk to us about some of those reasons why you chose to leave and join Nabla, and what drew you to the vendor after working at a provider.
Well, yeah, I mean, when I was with Kaiser Permanente, I saw firsthand the positive impact Nabla had on our physicians.
Mm.
Hours of time being saved, work stress being lowered, joy and meaning being brought back into the practice. And this was done on a scale not seen with any other generative AI solution before. But that was with one health system. Though a large health system with 10,000 physicians, the potential of having this kind of impact on hundreds of health systems in the healthcare ecosystem and hundreds of thousands of physicians, even millions of clinicians, is really compelling for me. And the fact that, kind of what Matt just mentioned, that, Nabla did not feel like a vendor to me. I love the word partner and partnership because I felt Nabla really was bringing true partnership in the journey with shared and aligned vision and goals. And so putting all that together, my decision to join Nabla was probably one of the easiest decisions I've ever had to make since my career in medicine started.
That's interesting. Well, and I think, this whole space, ambient clinical voice, we're hearing about the results, right? Like, how can you not be excited about what's happening here? We hear everyone talking, and it sounds like, Matt, you've seen some of this reduction in pajama time, right? I think that's a technical term now, pajama
Yes.
time. Probably a technical measure that we need to include in our scores. But even the improvement in overall wellness that you talked about, Ed, right? The doctors that are happy, right? That are enjoying the technology, improvement in how you connect with patients. We hear this a lot in our, as we've interviewed, like, I'd love to hear from you, Matt. What are the things you're hearing? Like, and is this real or is this vendor talk, right? Like, because we could talk about it forever and see, oh yeah, in theory, sure, if this AI assistant works, it's going to do that. What has your been experience actually using it and hearing from customers?
It is real, and I have to say that, like all tools, not everyone's going to use it, right? But I mean, for those who are using it, they are finding that they are better able to focus on the time what they have with their patient and families. They are not overburdened by the thought of like trying to remember everything, especially in visits that may be short. And some of our most successful and happiest providers actually are in quite busy clinics. And they've
Mm,
said, "Oh, this is great. I don't feel the obligation to," and they're finishing their notes quicker. So we had people who used to struggle to finish notes who said, "This is fantastic. I'm not getting behind." But also, I've found that I remember things because it's all put in there. Oh yeah, I forgot that I mentioned that, and so it really has kind of changed the way that they work. I mean, I'll share my own personal anecdote, which is, um, on the days that I had, for reasons usually from my own problem, where I for some reason didn't sign in early enough in the morning as I walked into as I was getting ready to go in, I was annoyed that I didn't have Nabla ready with me in the room, and so it helped me change my practice to make sure that it was ready because it kind of lifts some of the burden you feel coming in, knowing like, yeah, this is great. I really want to spend time with you, but I'm also aware that I have to get this stuff into the chart. So it really has been effective. And I think one of the things that we would share is that the people in the pilot, as we were transitioning from the pilot to the regular, they're like, "We're not going to lose this, right? Well, we're making the no, don't worry, we're going to keep it." And so that was a pretty kind of telling, I think, argument. It was, and we have also people who said, "Oh, I'd pay for this if you took it away." So that too is a pretty strong vote of support.
I mean, that's the interesting measure. What would they do if you took it away? Like that's a really interesting endorsement of it. Ed, I'm sure hearing this feedback, it must feel really good from Nabla. I mean, that's why you left your kind of previous job, your previous career to do it. Is this what you expect for when you work with someone? I mean, are you seeing this across the board? And what's your kind of level of satisfaction with what's been achieved by CHLA?
Yeah, this is extremely gratifying and really what I would expect to hear based on my personal use of Nabla in my own practice and what I've seen with my colleagues in the field as well. And, similar story of what Matt just mentioned, when we were piloting at Kaiser Permanente, we did a 2-week pilot. And we warned our pilot users at the beginning, like we may actually have to take this away at the end of 2 weeks because we need to figure out what we need to do after that. And they were very upset that we might do that. We ended up not doing that, and ended up rolling it out to 10,000 physicians. But the concern around that was true. The results, they're reproducible. And I hear similar feedback about this all the time with respect to Nabla, and the level of satisfaction has been incredible. And something we want all the CHLA physicians and clinicians to experience, and something I would personally want the rest of the healthcare industry to experience as well, for the sake of improving burnout and the sake of improving the physician-patient interactions that we all have every day.
Interesting. Matt mentioned it's not perfect for everyone, right? And I want to keep it somewhat realistic here too. What are some of the challenges with this? Is it, it's not perfect for everyone? Are there some other things that you've learned in this process that you're like, and maybe you could start, Matt, is there advice you'd give to other CIOs, CMIOs that are looking at the solution to, make sure that, they implement it in a way that's effective?
Yeah, I think that we kind of came up with a bit of a phenotype of folks who were the most successful. And I think that certainly being open to new technology helps. And as I mentioned, when we developed the pilot, we did want to get people who were less tech savvy and those were more. And clearly the folks who are like, yeah, this is not a big deal. I can start this up on my phone and it's not a problem. I think that the other one is um, it writes a note that may be slightly different than you would write on your own. And it doesn't mean that that is necessarily um, I guess that I'm trying to kind of say it properly. The issue is if you are insistent that your note has to look exactly this way, then you're going to spend a lot of time editing it, and you're going to spend a lot of time feeling like there is extra work to do that. On the other hand, if you are willing to kind of listen and then look at the product and say, "Gosh, that does capture what we talked about. That didn't, and that's more than acceptable." I think that's where we found that people thought, "Oh gosh, this really freed me up," and you did again as I mentioned, some of them have said, "Oh, I forgot that I said that, and this captured it." And so I think that being willing to accept that not being too fussy about the way that the note was structured relative to your own. And I think that's probably one of the things as we talk about future development would be allowing people to say, okay, that's great. Here's the product that's generated natively, and then can you look at my notes and kind of blend the two. So I
Yeah.
think that those are the kind of things that we've found has been most kind of helpful as around developing the groups that are going to be willing to do it.
Interesting. It's almost about building expectations, right? Expectations is key to happiness in life, and I think that's true in a health IT product. And anything you'd add as far as ensuring that there's a successful implementation, or is it about the mindset going in? Is it, like what else have you seen that has made sure that, because new technology is change, right? So you have to adapt to it. But anything else you suggest to help an organization that's looking at ambient clinical voice to make sure it's a success?
Well, I mean, the way I see it is in terms of the relationship between Nabla and CHLA is that, and with any partner that we work with, is that this is just sort of the beginning.
Mm.
It's like a marriage, and right now in the beginning, we're in the honeymoon phase, but like with any other successful partnership or successful marriage, you know, we need to grow together. We need to continue to take our feedback, the feedback that we get, adjusting our product, adding new features, building on the success that we've had already through our experience. And, kind of what Matt mentioned earlier, which I think is a great thing about Nabla, is that we are nimble. And so feedback that comes back is taken into consideration. And if it's something that we think is going to improve our product, we can do it and do it almost right away, better than anyone else can do it. And so I'm really super excited about how this partnership will continue to grow and how we will continue to work with other organizations out there and to see what the future holds with us.
Yeah.
And I'd like to add there, I mean, one of the things in particular was having people come out on site and being able to see the patient interactions. And the perfect one, Alex, the CEO, came out and came and saw me in clinic. And so one of the challenges that we've all faced are multilingual visits. We were trying to decide which is the language that I'm supposed to pay attention to. And of course, it's easy enough at the front to say like, okay, I'm likely to speak, in my case, English or Spanish with one of the families. And of course, the challenge that often is missed, and this is a perfect pediatric example, is, well, the family may prefer Spanish. The child often will want to speak in English. And so then you have this, so you have the multiples going. And so if you have an interpreter, that's one thing you can kind of ignore. But so that was definitely one where Nabla came and said, oh, we get it. This is definitely a use case that hadn't been as easily, obvious when we're talking about just what's the usual clinical experience going to be like. And so now they're working on figuring out, okay, how we're going to be able to pick those up.
Wow. That is a fascinating example. And Ed, your analogy resonates since I got married 6 months ago. So yeah, I think you're right, though. We are at the beginning. So, Ed, what do you see as next for Nabla and of course CHLA, who will benefit from that? What are the next steps of that you're working on in this collaboration?
Yeah, just continue to work on the ground, listening to the feedback, and there are new features that we're building into the product all the time. Right now, we've got the ability to recommend ICD-10 codes. We're going to also bring in things like HCCs and CPT codes, and integrating our product directly into the EHR. We've got the integration built already. It's just sort of partnering with our health systems to make it work on their end as well. So, I mean, there's so much more that we can do in this space here, because so much is done through spoken and listening through ambient technology between the patient and the clinician, that I think this is sort of the tip of the iceberg, just creating the documentation here.
I agree completely. Matt, anything you'd add as far as where you think you're taking this next?
Yeah, I agree. I think that the more integration we have, the better. And I think that certainly, we've all thought of the, Star Trek style, hey, computer, do this. And so I think that, eventually we'll get there. I also think that we want to balance that there are some things that are really adaptable to that. And there's some where you might say, oh gosh, maybe you should look through this a little bit better. So I think that though, anything that can lessen the burden of feeling like the technology is something that you have to interact with, as opposed to like, oh yeah, it's just on. The other interesting thing I would share is, we always ask the families beforehand, I'm going to be using this new tool, and Nabla has a nice kind of way to add that to the note. I have had every single patient say, not just I want to do this, but oh my gosh, that is so cool. Let me see it. And so it has been, and now as I've had them coming back and like, oh yeah, no, you told me about that. I'm cool with that. So I think that's part of the joy of it, is that the families feel like, oh yeah, you're right. This is I'm happy to participate with this. You're more present with me because of it.
Wow. I mean, that is the beautiful part. It's such the doctor loves it, the patients love it. Nabla even has a nice patient summary. I saw that feature as well in the demo Ed did. So it's fascinating to see. But like you all said, we're still at the beginning. So I appreciate you sharing your firsthand experience using a tool like Nabla and Ambient Clinical Voice. And 6 months from now, I think we'll have even more to share. So thanks so much, Matt. Thanks, Ed. I appreciate you taking time to talk with us and share your experience with the solution. And thanks everyone for watching and listening. If you want to find more great healthcare IT content like this, be sure to check it out at healthcareittoday.com or search for Healthcare IT Today on your favorite podcasting application. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks so much, John. Take care.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Matt.